Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm William Lau from SIA, Singapore Institute of Architect. Together with me, the co-hosting with me will be Elvin Ng. I will have to start off, but I'm due for some urgent thing. I may have to drop off, so I'll have to depend on Elvin to wrap it up, right? And anyway, for those who are new to this, this is a Young Architects League, or YAL in short, combines a series with SIA. It's a tech talk series tailored for young architects and industry practitioners. Essentially, we're focusing on transformative technologies and practices in architectures. So far, we've covered topics on AI, metaverse, BIM computational design. We've even done a SketchUp with Ruby script. Right now, I think this topic for today will be of interest. Essentially, we are getting practitioners or industry specialists here to give a sharing, essentially to gain insights into effective integration of technologies into projects, especially optimizing performances, efficiency, and sustainability. We actually are targeting the discussion to explore integration of BIM and as well as the latest technology, look into this and thinking of ways and through sharing and through discussion, how we can even so-called make this even better for our practice. So today's topic, blockchain for architectural services and consultancy. Well, when we talk about blockchain, we always think about cryptocurrency, right? Now, how is this going to work for architectural services? We have the privilege of having Edmund Ng to lead this discussion. Edmund has about 20 years of experience in software, fintech, and supply chain. All right, he's known to be a serial entrepreneur and founded 3 startups and helped one grow into a 20 million valuation within a span of 2 years. All right, so he basically is an unwavering procurement advocate with a mission to combine the best technologies to build the best trade ecosystem with procurement at its core. On top of being the passionate advocate for digitalization, he's also a member of Tribe, all right? Essentially, they're advising and sharing other startups. Okay, today's discussion, just to put it in proper framework, is essentially to targeting professionals, right? Essentially in the built environment, looking forward to staying ahead of the curve and capitalize on the transformative potential of blockchain and smart contracts in the projects with practical insights and experts and advice. Okay, so the discussion should aim to serve as an introduction to a rapidly evolving world of blockchain-enabled projects and practices. So without further ado, Edmund, over to you.
Thank you, Architect William, and there's a very good evening to you and everybody. Thanks for your introduction. Yeah, so being the times where I spent quite numbers of startups and has been looking into that technology to support the ecosystem on that. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. It's my honor to share with you the journey about what actually we focus on in the construction or even the built environment, and what we can look into deeper discussion about how blockchain technology can actually help to, looking into how can we harden the data and getting it immutable, or in terms of speed up. Actually, is there ways that in fact we can actually look into how efficiency that technology can work on. Yeah. So I do have this evening, I do have 2 slides that I could share, and I will run through a bit of the use case or the concept that I do have. And after that, maybe you can, later on, we can go into the next discussion on that. Would that be fine with that?
Sure, that'll be fine.
Right.
We can, it's up to you. We can leave it the Q&A to later for discussion. Or I think we do that way better. Yeah, so that you won't interrupt your presentation. Okay,
Sure.
that's it. Yeah.
Let me share my slides. Yep. Let me know once you're able to see my slides. Yep.
Yep, it's on.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, blockchain technology. What in fact we are looking at is about the SSOT. In short, what we call single source of truth. So single source of truth itself, how are we going to proven data, and also how can we make data that actually is so proven that the truth, the data is proven. Blockchain have two so-called angles where you can look at. The one part of it is about crypto, in terms of you look at the tokenizations, you look into cryptocurrency and stuff, right? So that portion is about how currency been actually been using under the blockchain network. So what we are going to look at is another perspective about blockchain as smart contracts. So what is smart contract? Smart contract is to bring in certain angles of documentations from a source and to make it as immutable and to present it in a single source of truth. So how we are using, I will be sharing these slides about how we are using blockchain technology to govern it, so that eventually solving a few numbers of use cases. So some of the use cases that we are looking at is about today, if a transaction between the business to business, usually there will be between, if I want to buy something from suppliers, or the suppliers actually receive an order from buyers, right? Usually they do have a kind of contracts that they requires to have. So the first contracts usually what we name it as a purchase order. So which means when the buyers actually start their purchase request, either they will start with a request for quote. They ask the suppliers to quote me with certain amount of so-called products that you want to buy. Then after you run through certain part of the approval workflows, then after the system actually start to generate this purchase order. So this form of purchase order, when you started to send over to suppliers, actually what we name it as a contract, because today I want to buy something from you, so I give you a purchase order. So then after that, when the suppliers actually acknowledge that, then after that they start to deliver the goods to you, and after that you start to receive the goods. So during that time, the suppliers will send over a documents where they call it a delivery orders, and you need to receive the goods from the delivery orders, and that is another areas where you can see that actually the goods has been received. Today, I am purchasing from you a certain numbers of items, and after that, I have received this item actually according to what I want to purchase from you. Then after that, then you have that angles that you want to actually invoice me because I receive your goods, and now you want to collect the money from me because you have received the goods. So then the suppliers will give me an invoice. So these invoices itself, I need to actually handle what we call it the three-way matching part, which means I need to compare the POs versus the good received. Then after that, the good received itself versus the invoice, approved invoice, that we have to match it. And then after, what we call it pending for payments. So once the proof of the invoice has been approved, what the status of the invoice will be pending for payments, and depend on the payment terms and the process of it. Then after that, you can actually make payments maybe after 30 days of the terms, or 60 days, or cash on delivery, depend on what type of so-called terms that you have. So how we are going to leverage on blockchain technology is when the moment when the suppliers, actually the buyers actually send over the purchase orders to the suppliers, we push to the chain code. So what we use is this technology called Hyperledger Fabrics. So Hyperledger Fabrics, the main contributor is by IBM, and actually what we use it, Hyperledger Fabric as the main blockchain technology behind the documents that how we are able to push it and hash it. So the documents, when we push over to suppliers, at the same time, we want to actually hash that purchase order and push over to the chain code to make sure that all the purchase orders numbers has been, or the data of the purchase order has been actually recorded. Then after that, when the delivery orders actually have received, and the goods have done, actually we associate the data of the delivery orders and actually link it to the purchase orders. Then after that, once the invoice actually has been approved, we also actually push over the chain code and to make sure that actually it's immutable. So what we do is, today blockchain technology is already in the market for very long, but the thing is that we still not really leverage on the whole entire so-called way of doing. So what we do is, today I'm going to share you with this use case, but I also wanted to share with you the future of it, how you can envision that, how does a blockchain can help eventually in terms of that trade finance. So imagine these documents has been going into the blockchains and to make sure that actually everything are so proven. So the single source of truth will be present, right? Then after that, so what we do is we give every of the documents, there will be a global ID. So which means today I have an invoice that, because every company has its own invoice number. So this number is unique to the company, but it's not unique to the world, right? So what we do is in our platforms, actually, we actually give a idea, give a numbers to this invoice, what you call it a global invoice ID. So we use this global ID and hash it in the blockchain technology to make sure that actually this invoice is one unit, right? So with these global IDs and push it on the system, so imagine that the next time or the futures when you can actually use an invoice for financing, and this financing, when they start to go into the blockchain to verify this invoice, actually you can see that the whole entire trail of the documents, the historical data of that whole invoice, your delivery order, how you're going to receive the goods, and all the purchase order actually will be linked to these invoices, and you will see that the single source of truth has been proven. So with that, then this may unlock how financing will be quicker and faster and quicker, right? So on that. So that is the angles where what I can see that for blockchain in future, the automated of financing or payment may be very fast, on the angles, right? Because today we the design, the technology is there, but now the market are trying to look into how can actually we speed up in the financing part. So the next slide about what I can look at in terms of blockchain technology, in terms of contracting works. This is one of the diagrams that we can look at, is a co-relationship diagram. So I just want to run through a few, one or two tiers of how, contracts between a construction of a swimming pool. We are looking into a simple swimming pools, that how does a developer, when they start to actually requires a main cons to actually build a swimming pool. So we are looking into how can we actually look into how collaborative contractings can actually go into the downstream, so that eventually leveraging our blockchain technology to run through that. So this is one of the use cases that you can may give you all some ideas on that. So example, today you want to build a swimming pool, actually $100,000, and after that you send a main concept, one swimming pool $100,000, and award to a main con. So usually the main con will start to actually break it into multiple trades, different type of trades on. So trade one, you do have your preliminary or your structural works and all your pilots or your M&E information. Then after that, you will the main con will start to actually distribute different trades items and trades so-called requirements works to their subcontractors. So multiple subcontractor has been received that. So imagine one of the subcontractors actually received this sub-trade one or trade one of the items that actually for preliminary works, right? Then after that, actually they want to even downstream to their sub-2 con to actually work on certain part of that. So you were able to allow to actually break down from your different type of downstreams, that from a trade level 1.1 version, 1.1 actually the version, to split down into a sub version, that 1.1.1 versions that actually start to split out to the subcontractors. So imagine that all this information actually has been recorded to say that who are the ones that actually has been actually break into the smart contracts that I have a contract and I split the smart contracts to a deeper down contracts on that. So with that, actually you can see that actually with blockchain technology, we can actually look into how can we centralize a bin towards the, first of all, I think the single of truth is very important. The second part is when we start to downstream, or we can upstream when the sub-2 con start to claim from the sub-1 con, or the sub-1 con start to claim from main con, right? Actually, the information can be start to collapse and consolidated. So with these angles where you can consolidate it with a single source of truth, I think we can look into how can centralized bin or digital twin can be actually happen with the technology, then there are some things that we can eventually, we are looking to how can we unify QS bar, how can we actually handle, how can we link project management towards your contracting works, how are we going to sync toward the bin models. Then when we start to look into this angle where the proven of the data has been proven, right? Then we can look into how can we actually look into the ESG angles where how are you going to look into your carbon reportings because the data is proven, right? Then after that, how are you going to look into your so-called green mark or even towards the carbon neutral? So today, I mean, we need to look into the angles where construction work eventually you need to measure how are the measure of all the construction or all the neutral portion that we have. So that's some things that we can look into that. Yeah. So yeah, so I put a pause over here. Then yeah, that's the sharing on these two slides. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Edmund. Yeah, that's very quite insightful and interesting to bring up this, especially your issue on the single source of truth. However, maybe you can discuss, and maybe Alvin, you can chip into this. As we understand in the construction trade, sometimes when we issue a contract, but the amount will change because halfway through there may be like some changes and all that. So how do you deal with that when this thing happens, you know, when there are some changes and contractor is can actually claim a variation to that, whether is it a positive variation or addition or even omission of works. So therefore your contract amount will differ.
Yep. Maybe I will start first on this question, right? Yeah. So what we do is we will break down into different workspace for contracting works because usually the contract will start with the main contracts that we run through in the platforms that so maybe I can show an example. Yeah. Okay, let me just quickly log into the system to show example. Let me share my screen. Yep. Yeah. So on the platforms itself, what we do is when we start to look into the progress claim information, right? So first of all, documentation will be generated, and I mean the payment certs. What we do is we generated the payment certs and to make sure that all these payment certs is correct. And we also, as mentioned earlier, we are looking to, first of all, you do have your own original workspace, and your workspace itself, that is the jobs that you handle that. So what we want to do is actually we will tag additional subcontracting works to the platform, so that actually you can actually start to actually link these main jobs, and so that this subcontracting works will be kind of separated, but it's part of the whole entire work. So we are kind of separate on that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we look into example of your swimming pool. You have piling as one of the subcontract work. Normally piling is always a so-called a provision in the sense that maybe originally based on the soil report and all that, the engineer may propose a certain length for the pile to be driven into. However, when actual piling starts, right, there may be some changes. So maybe initially the engineer allowed 10 meters of driving piles to drive in, but the condition differs. And in the end, you drive probably to 50 meters. So there's additional 5 meters whereby the contractor can claim an extra. So how can you reflect this? Because by doing that, your awarded sum will be changed, right? So do you allow in the so-called blockchain whereby they can actually add in a variation claim?
Yes, we believe that we can actually look into this angle where because the contract will have a lump sum and remeasurement model. So if you actually look into the remeasure models, then you allows you to actually start to, adding additional so-called requirements that you can allows you to, charge a high, more requirements on that. And then from there, we have to actually look into how can we actually record this in the blockchain technology, because you know that certain subcontracting words can reach into 1,000 line or 2,000 line. It's not possible to actually hash the whole entire data that put in the blockchain that to put on that. So you may want to consider to actually put into the instead of going to such granular information, maybe the headers information can be actually put into blockchain. Then it will try to actually maybe on the, so example for piling is 20% out of the whole entire swimming pool, right? So when the costing is 20K, when you start to actually add in more price on that, so this 20% actually also still remain in 20% because you actually distributed 20% of piling of that considered job done. So you can actually put in the cost, higher cost, and who is the one to approve this additional variation orders, and so that eventually when there is disputes, there are informations, then you can actually pull out the historical data or your audit trails information to, to actually to handle that. Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
Hi, Evan.
Alvin, you got any?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Alvin. I'm supposed to be the moderator for this. Architect William Lau is doing a fantastic job because I am really quite lost in terms of blockchain. But okay, so anyway, we do have a question from an audience, who's actually quite similar to what I was gonna ask. Understand that blockchain is decentralized, but if you have to manage everything through the platform, isn't it a form of centralization? And how can users be assured that access to the platform is maintained to be equitable? So my question is kind of related. It's a follow-up to this audience question, which means that, so does it mean one client will be, let's say, engaging Doxa platform or something? I'm not sure that's how it works. And let's say another subcon, they can have another kind of platform, but still talk the same language in that sense.
Yep. Yeah, good questions. Yeah. I think today, those that saying that doing a smart contracts is kind of centralized. Is in a very layman terms, we say that we are building a very expensive database with blockchain technologies. Is something that But having said that, I think there is always the way that how we decentralize it is, which means the question has two parts about how does different blockchain, or even like today, later I will address to the second part where different blockchain technology, how are they going to talk to each others. Then for the first part itself is that we need to start with a centralized first, which means we need to actually build the blockchain technology to make sure that actually it holds and we can actually hash the documents in the platform. So in that whole entire database, what we built is we built a kind of few channels. So in our platforms, we do have the buyers, the suppliers, and the financial institute, and also there is a global network. So what we use is that actually we decentralize these three main different personas, but after all, it's still under our so-called under Doxa side, right? So we answer different channel of the nodes to make sure that actually is decentralized on our care. Then after that, we do have one kind of we call it the policing nodes, or the one that actually be the one that like checking to make sure that actually the blockchain actually is is immutable. It has been actually, the record has been actually recorded in these three main so-called nodes. But having said that, if today a buyers or a bank is coming to say that, hey, I want to also to have my own nodes, actually you can build that channel, because the channel can be actually in a membership levels that we can actually assign these channels inside the networks. But you requires to have the same type of blockchain, which means we need to help you to manage it, host it in your clouds, and after that we need to use the same technology. Just like example, Hyperledger fabrics. So we need to actually use the same technology. But having said that, the second question is about how are we going to look at, you see in the markets like crypto, or there's many projects like even Project Orchid. Last time used to be called Project Ubin. Then after that, they start to look into the CBDC, central bank digital currency, CBDC angles, where they start to look into what you name called Project Orchid. And actually they start to leverage on Polygon. So Polygon is an on-chain platforms that actually allows you to put in Ether and other type of blockchain technologies to actually start to exchange between that. But in terms of smart contracts today, it haven't happened yet. But we believe that, you know, in the market itself, there are three main type of blockchain technologies that what I see is that are the upcomings, or most people are working on is like, you know, Ethereum, Hyperledger, and R3 Coda. So these are the three mains. Actually, you can see that actually smart contract are in circle around this field. So eventually I believe that I think there will be a kind of evolutions or something. I mean, to get the exchange to coming in. That is one part that I can see in the blockchain technology. But having said that, there is another change that I see in the future, because everyone are talking about, you know, quantum computing is coming. And when we run through quantum computing, there's many things that actually will change, right? You know, there's a lot of things will happen because the processing of it is so fast, right? The future, will there be still blockchain? I think yes, but the encryptions and the hashing way may change on that, because the calculation of it may be much more faster on that. You know, today, last time we used to do 128 or 256 encryption, and how fast can encryption be, right? So when the encryption, last time when my times to do encryption, it can go into like, you need how many computers to encrypt 256-bit so-called encryption key, right? So it takes 100 years, or, you know, so nobody were able to do that, right? 100 years by the time you encrypted. Now today, 20 years, 30 years. Actually, you can see that actually the encryption now, even today, actually you will take years to encrypt. Only years, not hundreds, not 20, you know, on that. How about quantum computing? It will be fastest. You will be, you know, I'm not so sure whether how fast it's going to be. It's going to be very, very fast. So there will be another different sets of encryptions will coming up, and the market are looking at, and I think that there will be one change in the way how blockchain, I believe, how it encrypted. Then after that will last us quite a long time on that. So that is why I think maybe there's a possibility on that. Yeah.
Okay, so currently, going back to the three main platforms for blockchain. So currently the situation is, for example, if yours is I don't know, do I say encoded on Ethereum?
Hyperledger.
Or Hyperledger. And then so you won't be able to talk to, currently you won't be able to talk to someone on Ethereum network.
You still, today blockchain technology I see is that you can't have a non blockchain, you can't have a blockchain with just a blockchain database to run through the whole entire system. So you still need to have another database that you host it secure. Then after that, you need to have your network, your nodes that you build outside of your own database, so that if today you want to talk to another blockchain, right? So you will push the data from your secure database and push over on that, because you can't push over from, you know, a blockchain and blockchain, you can't talk to each other because of,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then Wen Wei has a question. Wen Wei, do you want to?
Yes. Actually, I have a series of questions.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, the first thing is beside payment, right? I understand. Just now you mentioned about green mark, and also value chain management, right? So with the product being, I believe is actually to ensure what is being delivered is what is being specified. So this is the trust, right? With the single source of truth, and also the immutable ledger, distributed ledger. So, but the thing is, what are the potential use by the designers, architects, and consultants for now that you have with the use cases? So beside that, right? So, so I also have other inquiries. For instance, if it's very good, then with your use case, then they want to implement it. So what are the cost fees, to adopt your solution? Right, Doxa, I believe it's a ready solution. So how much fees do I engage? So, but the thing is, when they engage your fees, they would expect certain savings, correct? Yeah, either you compact the resources or you ensure what is delivered, to avoid the checking or manual checks. So for now, right, I believe there should be measurable benefits. But we would need your advice on it. So beside that, right, so there are how actually I believe blockchain has been here for quite some time. So if they want to learn it, if the project team want to engage your solution, so is there a learning curve? So how difficult is it to be applied? Then moving on forward as well, right? So is there any potential collaborative outcomes with AI, IoT, to ensure these are better outcomes? So, and blockchain has been here, right? So, but the thing is, in the built environment sector, so for contractor, they might be using it for payment. But for consultants, designers, professionals that are upstream, do you think they are ready for it? So yeah, I believe there's a lot of use case. So therefore, sorry, I'm bombarding you with a series of questions because I was thinking along the way. Then we are hoping for your advice and comments on this. Yes, over.
It's a very interesting question, yeah, and I understand the angles that you mentioned. That also another angles where you can look at not towards smart contracts. You can look at today NFT, how they handles that. How are you going to you blockchain it and to make sure that, or even you go to the Web3 towards the futures when you go into the metaverse, and how are you going to today we have buildings that actually built buildings in the real world. Then the future, do you have a real metaverse in the Web3 levels that you have that design of the building also built in the digital twin angles that then you can start to look into. I mean, if I can look into the wow ideas of, I think, the futures where you can even leverage on the digital twin levels that you go into the angles. But having said that, towards more the practical ways that blockchain technology towards the smart contract are actually, they are looking to the risk level. I mean, the RSIK, the risk. So how are you going to lower down the risk? So because they are focused on the single source of truth and to be proven that actually documents or things in the blockchain technology is so immutable, right? So what you can do is today you will able to make sure that the data that has been logged have your historical data and nobody can tamper off, or you were able to trace back the data so that eventually this may help you to resolve your your disputes, because you will not say those things that, hey, last time I do this or do this and you tell me all these things, actually this can't manipulate. That is some things that the risk when the angles, when you have a good data that are so proven, and actually the output of the data will give you a real good answer. So I think in the technology jargon, we call it the garbage in, garbage out, right? If today you don't handle from the origination of data to make sure that the output of it is still origination, still the original data, right? Then how are you going to analyze your data that you can actually start to look into your, the project performance, or even your, when you start to go into multiple of your so-called your bin model, is there a way people that have changed it, and how much has been changed? What is the version of it? Do you really actually record that and hash it, or so that actually there's quite a numbers of multiple use cases on that to handle the single source of truth or to lower down the risk. For payments itself, I think eventually we are also looking to, like, in the financing case, and there's a lot of fraud, or even example, a lot of companies, there's example like Heng Leong case, when you start to financing, you have a duplication or double finance, triple finance. One document, actually you can go to finance it, multiple ways on that. So that is a very high risk towards the financing part with a good so-called documentations, like the data that actually has been recorded. This will eventually help to lower down the risk. When lower down the risk, this may also lower down the cost of funds that actually been financed. You know, construction requires a lot of financing to support the whole entire build. So eventually will help to speed up, you know. I believe that this will also eventually help in terms of efficiency, right, on the angles. And regards to the fees and resources and things that the savings on that, we do have quite numbers of use cases that have stated the saving, and we run through. But blockchain technology is a kind of, I can say that is a technology, but behind this technology, you need a good user story to support the blockchain, because blockchain is a means or something that it will help you to harden your application, but you still need to run through an application use case that how can we benefit the end user using an application with a blockchain technology behind it. So what we do is we have application layers to handle your whole entire so-called contractings, or your procure to pay, or your payments, or your request for code, run through the whole entire so-called work stream. So this work stream will help you eventually so-called it could once you actually were able to achieve the efficiency angles, right, then definitely we were able to look into how actually we will help you to save how much. So I do have one very small articles that I think a few months ago thought about you know, Kim Lee was able to save about 20% of 20% of 30% of the man hours that in terms of processing on that. So you can see that there's a wide range of articles that to help to efficiency to achieve numbers of things that you can improve. And also you were able to see that you know, those companies that these are real companies, but it's not public information, so we are unable to put it in there. You know, they even actually get an Adam Smith Award, you know, Asia last year, to using Doxa solutions as on the angle. So that is the angles where we can see that it will help to improve your efficiency with the power of technology. And blockchain is one of the means that actually can power it up. So the amounts that usually they have to pay us is about 30 to 50,000. That's the pricing that some things that we try to make it as economical as possible on that angle. So usually we will charge a one-time fee of 30 to 50,000 to make sure that it runs through that. Then there will be a so-called continual of that so-called subscription. Usually they will pay us about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Yeah. So yeah, so we are looking into the Web3 in terms of AI part to how to actually analyze that. So we are talking to Microsoft. Microsoft are so hot recently when they check GPT is coming up. How are we going to look into very example in terms of the use case? Like example today, the platforms allows you to actually send a RFQ, a request for quote from many suppliers, right? So the supplier will start to return back all your so-called quotations. How are you going to evaluate the suppliers that this is the best so-called price beside the lowest price? So you can actually use the AI to actually run through that. So actually AI can run through a lot of different use cases, depend on how you actually run through the points that you want to actually run through that. As for IoT and stuff, actually there's always quite numbers of IoTs that actually can help you to actually evaluate to harden, because data from the source, because IoT are some things that it will able to help you to run through some certain part of the real-time information, because today real-time information are so important. So if you go down to IoT, then after that you can actually feedback the information coming in, then actually you can start to update. You leverage on IoT to make sure that data has been proven. Even like today, you want to make sure that the goods is moved from a place to a place, whether sometimes the goods never move, you may not know, right? So there's some things that the traceabilities IoT can be also very handy. And there's quite numbers of technology to put it in. But overall, what I can say that we are moving the era of collaborations, which means every platform's technology are looking to, you must be, first of all, you need to be open APIs platforms. You must able to enable connectivity angles to multiple so-called technology, because there's no one size fit everyone, the platforms, and you can't handle everything in just technology on that. So that's some things that for the market or the futures on technology that you need to do. Yep.
Wow. Thank you for the very detailed reply, even with featured articles for it. So beside that, right? So I believe there are benefits. So maybe you can let the architects or consultants understand what are the 3 key killer benefits.
Wait,
Wow,
hold
put
on.
on top. Wow, die cannot run away.
Wait. Okay, I'm gonna stop you here. Okay, so wait, Edmund, you have another segment of your presentation, right? Is it?
No, it's done.
Oh, okay. Cause I thought you stopped there so that you can take questions and then move on.
No, yeah, I only have 2 slides. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm gonna cut you off because you're cutting the queue. Okay, so there are 2 questions from the audience. So one is, I guess, it's a continuation of previously what you were asking. Is there a way that blockchain can be used to tag physical materials, construction materials? I'm assuming, for example, like let's say when it's being sent to site, or when it's being mined in China, for example, the marble that is being mined in China, they can tag it, and from there you already start the whole process of making sure that that marble is the one that you are getting on site. They don't swap it somehow, or it doesn't get lost into nowhere. Or even like carbon tracking, carbon usage. So how much carbonization goes into the building during the construction? Yeah. So that's question 1. Okay, second question is not related. I guess you can answer later. Is it only effective if the whole product chain is on board? For example, if one contractor uses blockchain technology, does it mean everybody in the project must use? Yeah.
All right. Blockchain traceability from seed to table, or the traceability of how, you will see that some people try to trace using blockchain to tag with the Wagyu beef, or the salmon that you sell, and to make sure that traceability on that. I think definitely it's possible to look into the angles, but you may require to harden it to make sure that actually because do you able to, in the technology space, or last time it used to be in the credit cards, these credit cards, now you can see that your credit card are using a EMB2 chip to put it in, and there's this term called perso. You need to perso it to make sure that actually how can you put into the marble to say that actually this code belongs to this marble. Because today, if you tag this so-called marble, but then you put a tag that just a paper tag to put down there, and after that next time you just scan the tag, then you will able to blockchain it. It's possible. You can trace it. If let's say nobody are going to bring this tag to another tag, because you can't connect to make sure that you print it. So you need to look into whether how can you make sure that you print it. So, or you must look into the way how you can seal it rather than that. So in the market there's many type of different way of how they use blockchain technology to seal it. Like you need to box it out to make sure that you actually harden the seal itself. Then after that you blockchain that seal to make sure that actually when the seal is broken, actually the blockchain, it will send the IoT to using the 4G or satellite networks to actually the seal has been broken, so that the status of that have been updated. So you require to really harden it so that actually blockchain technology can actually leverage on that on the IoT. So that's some things that we need to actually think to further actually proven it. The second part about do everyone need to look into the blockchain technology to use the same? Not everybody requires to do that, but depend on how much consensus that you needed. So example, if today I'm the buyers, you are the seller, both of us actually agree that have a consensus that this documents is a agreed documents between us. When the banks actually not in the blockchain, they can go into the chain of the so-called when you allows the banks to come in to say, okay, you let me access when you want to ask for financing, I can go in to verify. So you just requires to do a verification from that kind of consensus. Then actually you don't require to everyone to do that. It depends on how you want to run the use case towards blockchain technology. You know, if you look at blockchain towards crypto, is very more complex because they are more public, because nobody know what you are holding. But in the business to business context, right, usually maximum you may have only a few personas, whether it's a buyer, a seller, and a bank. You have only 3, or maybe you have a regulators 4, you know. So actually it's not so tough to actually bring in that whole entire use case coming in to actually handle a smart contract towards the B2B. So it's only that how do you actually orchestra the whole entire user stories towards that, the application layers, how do you handle the way how the smart contract works. Yep. Then the third questions that you asked, can I just remember what is the third questions that you, yeah.
No, only these two. Okay. Yeah, only these two. And then Woon Wei has I think many questions for you again. Yeah. So Woon Wei, shoot.
Yeah. Actually, I written in the chat lah. So okay, let me. So I was trying to ask, what is actually the 3 key killer benefits that the architects or consultants cannot miss out, from blockchain application or Doxa application. So this is the question of first one. And second one, it's so good, right? But the thing is it limited to the bigger players? How about the SME, the smaller players, medium size? I want to engage Doxa as well, but how? So therefore, is it very expensive? 2,000-3,000 per month. I'm not sure. So is there any? It depends on the project size. So maybe there's a discounted from Doxa. Edmund can offer now. So this is the questions. Yeah, over.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask whether what is the 3 killer answer so that I will build it inside my platforms that I can sell. But having said that, yeah, thanks for the questions. And yeah, so I think the first of all is that there's a few angles to architect certs. I think is also one of the documents that actually it can actually be blockchain to certify it. And because it's so valuable, right? Once actually the claims has been approved, actually you will revert back to architects to actually issue the architect certs. So that certs itself, actually, if let's say eventually we can actually use this cert for early payments or get financing, because architect certs, when they sign off on that, then after that the follow-up when it's issued and accepted, right? I think they can actually convert it to an invoice to get the payments in, or you can use that as a so-called kind of a piece of valuable documents that I can get some money, early payments on that. So that is one angle that you can look at. And if you want to go into a deeper type of angles where who is the one who actually approved this, that the consultants actually run through it, because today, before the architects coming in, the claims have to go into multiple consultants, your M&A consultants and others. So can we actually, so we can actually to make sure that all this has been actually recorded by who is the consultants that putting in on that kind of so-called benefits, that to make sure that actually you can so-called records the consultants so-called informations that in the angles lah. So these are, one is very valuable that it can turn into a very very tangible benefits that I blockchain it, then after I go to get finance on that. The other one is about your audit trail or historical data benefits that you can look at. Then these are maybe the 2 main areas that you can think around with it. Yep. For the so for the projects bigger or smaller, actually we do possible to actually scale it between, because what we believe is that the documents that requires, it will take how, the more documents, which means the bigger size you are. So we can actually look into, if let's say example, your document, your 1 month, you only requires to do 200 invoices, then it will be a smaller size SME. Then actually the price can be definitely is lower, and we will. And recently, I think we are speaking to the BCA side also as well to look into how can we actually go into the light version. We are start to actually discuss about, is there a light version that to able to help the smaller so-called contractors. Actually, eventually the light version actually allows them to actually look into how can we actually enable them for help them to look into green financing as well, because today green financing is so hot. And also how are the SME eventually can using it to to look into how can we look into the green angles and stuff. So that is some things that we are looking at that. I remember just now there's some questions about the ESG angle. How are we going to measure the on the carbon neutrals and stuff? Actually, that is another topic that we are working with. And today, how can you really measure carbon neutral in the whole entire building? Your scope 1, 2, how about your scope 3? How are you going to report on the angles, and how does the report itself come from the truth or proven? You can actually to make sure that you can actually to lock it. And I think there is quite a numbers of calculation, because today carbon reporting is one issues that you need to resolve. Then after that, you need to look into your carbon offsetting or your decarbonizations. How are you going to decarbonize your whole entire value chain? Then after that, later on, then you can look into how are you going to do your carbon offsetting, because you still have to carbon trading on that portion, right? Because today you need to offset the carbon on that. So you can see that in the root of the 2025, when we look into how are we going to report, so there will be a kind of angles, or there will be next year, I think a lot of people will scramble. How are you going to report it? And today you requires to use technology to quickly actually able to give you those information. So what we are doing now is we are trying to track the products, which mean what are the green products, or what are the tonnage and information that we have right now. So we are preparing for that. The locations, which mean today your warehouse is from here, where you need to deliver from your goods, or so-called from this place to this place on that, so that we're able to actually measure the transportation on that, and also the number of diesels that you use, how much diesel you purchase, to calculate it on that. So we are trying to look into how are you going to support the ESG angles. Yep. So Wu Wei, you still have so okay, automated solution.
It's just a summary.
Oh,
so
right. Thank you.
For the 3 key benefits.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep. Happy to share more lah. Yep.
Okay. Wow. This is really a lot. I mean, my brain is like dying already. Okay. So I guess all of this it's mainly currently focused on accountability issues. Do you see any like new ISO certification that can set a new industry benchmark in terms of how companies should be run?
This is a good question, sir. I think we are talking to IMDA Trade Trust. I think they are, looking into documentations that we can actually, because we already to make sure that documentation has been there and we hash it. Actually, no harms to look into how trade trust been set up. Then eventually, actually, you can see that the market are trying to digitalize or digitize that documentations. So, for instance, under the the global trades shipment, the EBL, for example. So they are using DLT or those Ethereums to actually look into to make sure that this document has been actually blockchain. So that is the futures that to leverage blockchain technologies on that. So eventually you can see that, like, you know, if you look at that purchase orders, architects, or those official documents that even can be actually to make it as an official documents, you can see that actually in China they are using this 发票. So they have this 发票, right? They call it in Chinese it's called 发票, but in English it's called the invoice. So you need to go to this centralized system called the 中登网. So centralized system to actually to declare it and to actually put it in. So imagine that eventually futures, I believe that actually there may be a centralized so-called networks. I mean, the market are trying to, you can see that governments are trying to introduce invoice now. How does the e-invoicing frameworks that put it in, and that may be the futures that we may need to push over to the government's invoice now, like your invoice, or is a mandate towards even your architects maybe. I mean, you can see that the future will be, I think we are moving towards the consolidation market. We tend of like consolidating, because last time, you know, a lot of people that they have their own system, their own accounting system, their own ERP system. But actually you can see that actually the market are trying to actually leverage on technology to actually consolidate it using APIs or connectivity elements to actually connecting the dots. Then you can see that actually the whole entire technology will start to combine, and you know, on that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's quite a clear answer. I think especially in terms of operating from Singapore, Singapore is always the trust headquarters of the world, right? Whenever you want to build credibility, you set up a company in Singapore. Yeah, so I think last question from Wenwei. Yeah, Wenwei is our most active audience today. And yeah, last question from Wenwei, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, how do the actually architectural students can learn and understand this blockchain use? Maybe some examples of Doxa. So is there any ongoing training or webinar that you can share? So is there students license? Yeah. Okay, over. Thank you.
This is a good suggestion. Right now, we don't have, but definitely we are looking towards webinars or workshop about digitalizations. So it's an end-to-end kind of things, even towards blockchain technology, how it used towards the digitalization. And we are working closely to our team to see when we will start this kind of workshop to run through that, because learning about blockchain, we will be good if there's a use case on top of blockchains, because blockchain itself is just, you know, the way how it hash it and how today, you know, how does blockchain handles it. But if you have a good use case that actually put on top of that and in the whole entire angles, then how you write into the blockchain code and stuff, then it will be much more valuable. So we will consider this quicker lah. Yeah, if have, then I will let you know soon. Yep.
Thanks. I suppose it's a digitalization efforts, correct? So
Yes.
with the BIM, after digitalizing all the validation, it can be using your US bar, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that would be the use case
for
automation.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah, or Wenwei, you know, maybe BCA Academy can start something, right?
Oh yes, that's a good idea, man.
Yeah, one idea for you. Okay. Okay, so I guess if there are no more questions, it's been a very long day on a very difficult topic. I guess difficult to most of us, right? Maybe for you, Edmund, it's something. I don't know. I cannot imagine how you even got into the whole system.
Still learning along the way, and you know, especially now Web3 is coming in and stuff, and there's more. Yeah, we are moving towards that era of technology, you know, collaborations and stuff, you know. So yeah, so we have to move towards that line lah. I mean, that's the future, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so if there's no more questions, I hope that this session has been very, very inspiring or informative and educational. Yeah, so SIA YAL, we are always trying to conduct new activities to stay current and also to stay updated, and also to help uplift the whole community, like the whole architectural community. So starting from the ground up with the younger folks, with new technologies and all these upcoming things that will take the market. So it's up to us to see how we want to react and adopt technology first. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you SIA for hosting. Thank you Edmund for having your time, lending your time and expertise. Yes, and we'll call it a night. Thank you
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.